Hey there, Dad Gamers. Welcome to the Dad Gamers Podcast. I'm your host, Bob Rayhart, otherwise known as Flank on Xbox Live and PlayStation. That's spelled Flankkke if you want to follow me there. Let me do a few tidbits of news, video game news that just came across my desk. One of the first things I saw is that Nintendo, specifically Smash Brothers, is taking a look at backing out at the EVO tournaments. Now, these are online Super Smash Brother type tournaments that they have every single year, and because Sony has acquired the esport venture, the question is, will Nintendo actually still allow Super Smash Brothers to be played there, so they're going to be more Sony focused? IGN did receive a statement from Nintendo. Nintendo said, Nintendo has enjoyed engaging with fans at past EVO tournaments and wish the show organizers the best with their new venture. We will continue to assess EVO and other opportunities as we plan for future online and offline Super Smash Bros. Tournament activity. So it looks like they may be backing out. So for any of you dad gamers out there that follow the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate tournaments, it looks like the EVO tournaments may not happen anymore. That's unfortunate, too, because those were a big deal. Speaking of other big deals, for you Dad Gamer Batman fans out there, it looks like Gotham Knights has been delayed until 2022. That's right. So, Kotaku, about a few hours ago, came out and said that Warner Brothers Montreal had announced Gotham Knights had been delayed. They said the reason for delay was that they wanted to get things right. They wanted to work on things and get a better, more meaningful game. Now, this is the Batman game that was going to be an open world RPG. It's being done by Warner Brothers Montreal, which is the same studio that did the Batman Arkham Origins game, which was the prequel to the Arkham Trilogy game. So it looks like that the Gotham Knight game will share like a lot of the gameplay similarities. So if you liked the Arkham trilogy, you're probably going to love this Gotham Knight game. So with that being said, it looks like Gotham Knights is now not due out till next year. The only good other thing that they've said is that it will be on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and also available on the PC. So as long as all of that still lines up and they get it quote-unquote better and right, we should see Gotham Knights hopefully mid-2022. Okay, dads, one of the other things I want to talk about is there are the 2021 nominees for the World Video Game Hall of Fame. I know that a lot of these games that were nominated this year are games that you dads out there have definitely played. I have the list here. I'll go over them here. Let's see. We got Animal Crossing, the original Animal Crossing on the GameCube. Like the first GameCube Animal Crossing. Like where you had the house and that was it. You didn't have anything else. Then they have Call of Duty, like the original PC version by Activision, and Infinity Ward Call of Duty. Farmville from Facebook. FIFA International Soccer, which looks like the Sega Genesis version. Guitar Hero from PlayStation 2. Mattel's Football, which Mattel Football, when I say that, it's literally like a little handheld game, like back in the 80s, handheld Mattel football game. Microsoft's Flight Simulator is a nominee on the list. Pole Position, of course. We've also got Starcraft from Blizzard. Do you remember Starcraft on the PC way back in the day? As well as Tron, and Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? Portal also was another one that actually made the list for puzzle games. So all of those games are going to be nominated for the World Video Game Hall of Fame for the Strong National Museum of Play. Now, if you are a fan of any of those games, which I know some of you dad gamers out there are, clearly, especially the Call of Duty, maybe the Microsoft Flight Simulator, hell, even StarCraft, or who knows, maybe possibly Farmville. If you would like to vote for your favorite game for the World Video Game Hall of Fame, I am going to have the link available in this description of the podcast. So if you look at the description of the podcast on your phone, you should see a link that allows you to click on it and you can vote. And you can vote once a day on their site. Now you have until the end of March 31st, to get all of your votes in. And then they will announce who will be inducted into the Hall of Fame on May 6th. So we will see. Now, just as tell you guys what was previously involved. Now, keep in mind, this Hall of Fame only came about in 2015. So it hasn't had a lot of video games inducted just as of yet. In 2015, Doom was inducted. In 2016, Grand Theft Auto 3 and The Legend of Zelda. In 2017, Halo made into the Hall of Fame. 2018, John Madden's football, Final Fantasy VII. And of course, in 2020, King's Quest, Minecraft also made it in. And, I almost forgot, 2019, we were looking at Mortal Kombat and Microsoft Solitaire. So it's a grand variety of games. Like, there's an entire different, huge variety. There's no specific one type of a console game or PC game or board game or anything like that. These are all specifically video games that you can play. It doesn't matter the system, whether it be Atari, computer, the old retro consoles, anything like that. So if you want to vote for one of this year's nominees, and I'll list them again real quick. The nominees are Starcraft, Farmville, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, Microsoft Flight Simulator, Call of Duty, Animal Crossing, Portal, FIFA Soccer, Tron, Guitar Hero, and did I miss one? No, it doesn't look like it. Okay, so again, the link for voting will be in the description of this podcast. So just go into the description, click on the link. You can vote once a day, and you have till the end of March to get your votes in for the Gaming Hall of Fame. So that's very interesting. But the big topic of today's conversation on our podcast is they just released the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. It's a 4-hour on HBO Max, I want to say marathon of DC goodness. I watched the entire thing. I thought it was absolutely amazing. It's a completely different story. So know that, Dad Gamers, when you're going into it, don't look at it like, oh, this is the same Justice League, but like the director's cut where they add an extra scene or something. No. Don't think that at all. This is a completely different story. There are some scenes that are identical. I'm not going to lie to you. But the storyline itself, completely different. The tone, completely different. In fact, it's way better. I was hooked. I thought I would maybe watch an hour of it or so, and then try to break it up or whatever. I ended up sitting through all 4 hours in one shot. So be that as it may, I want to talk about movies on this podcast for just a second, because I have a list here of movies that were video game based, that unfortunately we will not see. These were canceled video game movies that were picked up, whether the rights were picked up or something, and unfortunately they were shelved. But I'll get into it right now. A whole list of them. We'll start with Wheelman. Now, Wheelman came out in 2009. The movie had several delays. It was based on the video game with Vin Diesel, the Wheelman video game. The movie that was supposed to come out was supposed to be a direct sequel, but as it stands right now, with Vin Diesel's career at the time with the Fast and the Furious movies, that started picking up and trending, and he started getting into doing a lot more movies, and so unfortunately them making Wheelman, the video game, into a movie sequel to the video game failed. It's considered quote-unquote dead in the water right now. Moving on to the next one, The Last of Us, which we all know is going to appear on HBO Max. It's a show they're creating for HBO. It's a show, but originally it was actually supposed to be a movie way back in 2014. So this was before The Last of Us, sequel came out, and it was just going to be based on the first game. Now, the show apparently is going to be based on the first game as well, with implements of the second game also put into it. So we'll see how that plays out. But that will be sometime in the next, I think it comes out in April or May. But it's going to be on HBO, so you're going to want to keep an eye out for that. Now, has anybody seen Sonic the Hedgehog movie? As great as the Sonic the Hedgehog movie was, there was a plan for a Sonic the Hedgehog movie back in 1994. So Sega had struck a deal with MGM Studios and Trilogy Entertainment for a live-action movie called Sonic the Hedgehog Wonders of the World. Now, this movie was going to have just basically like the new Sonic Hedgehog movie has. It was going to have live action mixed in with CG animation. But this was back in 1994, so the closest thing would have looked like, I would assume, something like Roger Rabbit. With that being said, the theme and script of the movie was based on Dr. Robotnik and Sonic would come through a portal, show up in the real world. Robotnik would then build a theme park and start turning kids into robot clones. And Sonic was going to be teamed up with a teenager that was going to foil Robotnik's plans. Well, this got delayed, and there was doubt if they could even do the whole cartoon live action thing. So it got, I almost say got shelved. It got put on the back burner. It was presented later on. The screenwriter actually took it and presented it to DreamWorks, and they were like, nah, we'll pass. But moving on, speaking of animation, if you've played Secret of Monkey Island, you remember this one from Lucasfilms? LucasArts, I should say. This one was a great little comedy point-and-click type adventure that was available for the PC. And it was back in 2011. There was a special collector's edition that had came out of the game that had an extra disc with it, which showed storyboards and concept art for the film. Now, the film was not going to follow the game to a T. It was actually the film was going to be a reboot of the story, using the same characters, mind you, the same characters, but just rebooting the story to be fresh and new for moviegoers. Well, it looks like since LucasArts was sold to Disney, and Disney decided, well, we're not going to put out a, Secrets of Monkey Island that could go right up against Pirates of the Caribbean, so we're going to go ahead and squash that. So unfortunately, Secrets of Monkey Island was canceled. Back in 2005, Castlevania was optioned. Now, Castlevania got really close to actually becoming a movie. It had a $50 million plus budget, and it was using, or I should say, it had attached to it the Mortal Kombat director Paul W.S. Anderson, and he was location scouting. Like, that's how far this got. Like, it wasn't a matter of like, oh, it's a script, oh, it's talked about, oh, it's in, it's in a bunch of boardrooms or anything like that. Like, he was already in Hungary and Romania, like, location scouting, like looking for places to film Castlevania the movie. The script was actually going to start in 15th century Transylvania, like an origin story, and they were going to actually use Vlad the Impaler, the real life representation of Dracula, to start the origin story for Castlevania. And it was just going to kind of move through the years from there, and there was going to be a huge franchise, and there was this, again, $50 million budget. They were already planning it, and unfortunately, it just fizzled. Like, they just tried, and it was like, they kept moving forward, and in a couple of years, so it kept on trying, and then in 2007, when the Writers Guild Association went on strike, that put a stop to everything, because the script wasn't completely 100%, and so when the writers went on strike, it sat, and by 2009, it had finally been canned. So unfortunately, we'll never see Castlevania, at least not that script. Hopefully they do it. Now, I know there's a cartoon on Netflix. I'm not discounting that. There is a cartoon series apparently that's really well on Netflix, but I'm talking about a live action film. So let's hope that the cartoon does well enough for them to spawn another idea for the live action. Now, in 2015, Call of Duty actually had gotten a script. This was done by Scott Silver, who was the writer for Joker. He was planning on doing this Call of Duty where it was going to be basically, the movie was going to follow one soldier. I think the movie was probably going to be called Call of Duty, and it was going to just follow one. It was a story of a single soldier, but everything kept getting delayed, just delayed, and the whole production got stopped in 2018, and then by 2020 was just done. In fact, I think he even told the writer told an Italian entertainment magazine that in America, lots of movies just get stopped for no reason, and so we'll never know what the truth is behind what was going to happen with Call of Duty. They didn't even cast for it, so I guess it didn't get very far. In 2005, Halo was a movie that was getting done. Now, you dad gamers out there might remember hearing about this in the news, because Microsoft had made a script, like a spec script, to be sent out, and they had dressed all the couriers that were going to deliver the scripts as Master Chiefs. And this was in the news because they were all different Master Chiefs, went out in LA and started handing out the Halo script. Well, because of how much the studios wanted for to change or for money-wise, and Microsoft wasn't budging on any of it. They were like, no, we're going to do it our way, or you're not going to do it at all. Well, they ended up striking a deal with Universal and Fox. Those two came together, and they partnered, and their original director was not available that they wanted, so they ended up getting Neil Blomkamp, who directed District 9. I'm not sure I'm saying his name right, but he directed District 9. And he had so many different ideas for the Halo series that was going to be a little bit rougher and look a little bit more harsher. And the Universal Studios and Fox people were not happy with it at all, so they axed it. And it's gone into limbo for a long time, but now I think we're finally going to get the Halo TV show on Showtime later this year. So that should be interesting to see. I know I've seen a lot of pictures already for it, so it's going to be, hopefully it'll be amazing. Now, one of the other films that everybody has been wanting for many, many, many years has been Nintendo's Metroid. Now, Nintendo's Metroid was originally optioned by John Woo, director John Woo, who did Face Off, in 2004. And as he was doing it, the script was being written, and they were putting everything together, but Nintendo, who had just came off the Mario Brothers from 1993, was really apprehensive, like super apprehensive about having anybody touch their characters or do an origin story or a backstory or anything like that, because the Mario Brothers movie had done so poorly back in the day. So because of that wall they were hitting with Nintendo about the backstory of Samus and Metroid and everything, the project failed. Like, let's be honest, like Nintendo was pretty much like, we're not sure how we want to do it. We're not writing it. We don't want you to do it. So it failed. Now, recently in 2018, a few years ago, Brie Larson, you know her as Captain Marvel, had put on Instagram herself dressed in a Halloween costume of Samus. And it drove, of course, all the nerds crazy. And she said that she wants to make that film. So hopefully that'll push something, or maybe has pushed something forward with her playing or being part of the making of the next Metroid movie. We'll see. But again, 2004 was a long time ago. Now, in 2008, Universal Pictures actually picked up the rights to Bioshock. That's right, Bioshock. It was that gritty, like it was going to be dark and R-rated. The director was originally hooked to it was Gore Verbinski. He directed The Ring and Pirates of the Caribbean. It was in development for years, like at least a few years it was in development. Again, it was struggling in 2008 because, again, that was the financial crash. So, there was lots of money trying to be filtered here and filtered there. And right before, like 8 weeks prior to filming, Universal Studios pulled the plug. Or Universal Pictures, I should say, pulled the plug. So literally 2 months prior to them going to start filming the Bioshock movie, Universal pulled the plug because they were apprehensive about having an R-rated movie that was geared towards, I dare say, kids, at the time, Bioshock being a video game. Now recently, because of Deadpool being an R-rated movie, also being a superhero movie, that has changed the tone for a lot of films to these days. So we may see a Bioshock film in the future, but I don't foresee. I think that game maybe it's past. Unless they come out with a new Bioshock, I don't foresee them doing another movie. One of the shocking ones that did come across my desk was that Roller Coaster Tycoon. Do you remember this game by Atari for the PC way back in the day? Super popular game, so much fun to play. In 2010, Sony Pictures Animation actually optioned Roller Coaster Tycoon to be a movie. So it was going to be a cartoon movie. And the only basis or the only information I have about it actually was that it was going to be a theme park that came to life. Like, kids in the theme park were going to be able to be part of the theme park. It was going to come to life after hours when everyone left the park. And it was kind of like this little fantasy world, but there was no solid script on what was going to happen. So that, unfortunately, did not pan out. That would have been real interesting to see Roller Coaster Tycoon as a cartoon from Sony Pictures. So in 2016, there was a sequel planned for Assassin's Creed. That's right, the Assassin's Creed with Michael Fassbender. The sequel was actually planned prior to the first movie coming out. So they were already planning to franchise the Assassin's Creed movie ahead. But unfortunately, when Disney acquired, I think, part of the Fox franchise, they felt that the box office numbers in 2019 weren't very well for Assassin's Creed. So they axed the sequel fairly quickly. The one thing I do have information about it, though, is even though it was the Spanish Inquisition for the first one, the sequel was actually going to be based in the U.S. in the 1950s. And that would have been more interesting, I think. Now, the final game that I have that was going to be made into a movie blew my mind because I didn't see it coming. This one was way back in 2007 by 20th Century Fox had bought the rights to The Sims. No, that's right, you heard me correctly. The Sims, as in the life simulator, the game that you lose hours of your own life playing. The producer, John Davis, who was the producer for Man from U.N.C.L.E., was attached to it, and this 2007, he was trying to move it forward. The idea, the basis of the script was two teenagers who find a game called Sims Infinity Pack. So it was going to be two teenagers in the movie that played The Sims. Okay, so this was the Sims movie of two teenagers playing The Sims, and their Sims Infinity Pack would allow them to scan real-world objects into their game. But then as they played the game, they would see that those objects that they had scanned were becoming affected by what played in the game. So it was going to be kind of like this magical Jumanji type situation where things that they would be able to scan into the game and make happen, like if their character, let's say, got like $1 million, then, oh no, their bank account all of a sudden has $1 million. So it was kind of like a wish fulfillment, and you can imagine how that would backfire and go crazy. And of course, that was going to be the plot for it, or that was going to be at least the plan. So, unfortunately, this movie, the rights, 20th Century Fox had the rights. Like, again, they bought them in 2007 because The Sims was blowing up. And they actually held on to the rights all the way up until 2019 when Disney bought them. And as soon as Disney came in and bought 20th Century Fox, they scrapped it. They said, nope, we're not doing that. We're not going to do the Sims movie. Forget it. So, unfortunately, as you now know, we're not going to see ever the Sims movie, or at least not that one, as interesting as it would be. Okay, Dad Gamers. Like I said, I just want to keep these episodes short and sweet, something you can listen to on the way to work. In our next episode, next week, and by the way, I'm also sorry this episode's a little late. I was having trouble with the internet. But we're up and running now. We're fine. And next week, we will be announcing another winner of the $25 Xbox Live gift card. So make sure that you go to dadgamerspodcast.com, drop your email in on the little write-in there. There's a little thing on the middle of the website. You put it in, it'll even pop up and ask you. Give us your email. That's all we need. We don't need anything else. Just give us your email so that we can, if you win, if you're drawn, then we will be able to email you a code. So next week we'll be announcing. So you want to make sure you get in. You have to get it in before Tuesday of next week. All right, dads? Okay, so that'll be the end of our show for this time. Thanks for listening. And again, don't forget, dadgamerspodcast.com. And you can also check us out at Dad Gamers on Facebook. We have our own private group there. Feel free to join. And Dad Gamers on Xbox Live. Okay, dads, I'll see you online.